Welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches being the change they seek in the world. If you'd like to be featured on our podcast to share what you're contributing to making the world a better place for us all, please go to www.jointheuworldorder.com. Be sure to like and follow our podcast for the latest episodes. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with us today is Sophia Torrini, who is a certified clinical EFT practitioner with expertise in hacking reality and an advanced student and NeuroChange Solutions certified trainer under Dr. Joe Dispenza. She is uniquely equipped to guide individuals in releasing recurring negative thought patterns and achieving clarity, calmness, and joy. Welcome to our show. It's so nice to have you with us, Sophia.
Thank you, Jill, and thank you for inviting me on the show, and it's my pleasure and honor to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get into all of this stuff? Because I mean, you weren't born doing EFT, I'm sure.
No, my background was in medicine. I have a master's in epidemiology, and I also had a degree as a network engineer. And I did what everybody else does, just work to climb the corporate ladder. And just one event after another and some unfortunate wrong choices led me to a life-threatening condition after being very long in the hospital. And it dragged out for 14 years, and it was unanswerable to me. I was fine the night before, and then I wasn't fine the day after. So everybody said, your body's shutting down. It just gave me different stories, and it never sat well with me. And I ended up getting treatments from the top hospitals, and went out to Minnesota, Rochester, Minnesota, the Mayo Clinic, and the med would get me going for a little bit, and then I'd be back at square one. And at some point, I kind of encountered the same situation. My health was going to drastically deteriorate again. And I started reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's books, and made a lot of sense to me. But there was one thing missing. I did not know how to not be myself and what to do with all of my emotions and all the suffering and all the despair and fear and anger I had. And I had heard of EFT. I had tried it probably before. I don't remember if I had tried it, but I knew about it. I said, this stuff does not work. And at that point, I had tried every modality under the sun. Was it Psych-K? Was it the body code? And we're not talking doing one session. I would usually do 30 of each, and I wouldn't get any results. So I would do 30 body codes with no results. I would do 30 Psych-K with no results. And I found this lovely woman, and she worked with me every day for 1 year, almost every day, including Saturdays and Sundays. And then I realized all my emotions are bottled up, and I was not aware of it because I was just in my head. I was just a head walking around without knowing what was happening in the body. And then Dr. Joe's work made all the sense in the world, because one of the things he teaches is you need to master your emotions. And once you've mastered your emotions, you've mastered your reality. And that was when I saw how the two work together. That was my decision that that was my early decision that I cannot stay in medicine anymore, because I didn't get anywhere for all these years. I mean, literally nowhere. I was just getting worse. Mm-hmm. And finally, I would have bouts of ease or bouts of some happiness at times, and then maybe there's another way and there's more hope. And I started doing the week-longs. I had done a few week-longs, and I would see my classmates, how more evolved they were. And that gave me a lot of hope. And that's how that started. And I got a lot of joy working with clients, and I added some other modalities in there. And it's all based, again, with the neuroscience teachings, where is trauma stored or where memories are stored? Well, trauma is stored in your hippocampus, and they're usually high definition pictures. And memories are stored between two neurons. And once we reprocess the memories and we take out the emotional charge, then they can be recategorized as low definition that are not running in the background. And I'll give an analogy in a second. And the body can start returning at ease. So imagine the body as a cell phone or a battery. And I'm sure all of us have a cell phone, and you have 30 apps running, but you forgot about them. You don't even see them. Even when you turn off your phone and you restart it, unless you close them, they're still running in the background. So your battery keeps on draining. There's no battery left on your cell phone. And then you go and look, you swipe up, however you do, like 30, 40 applications that are open. Well, that happens with our negative beliefs, thoughts, or traumatic memories that are playing in the background, and it drains the body completely out of all its energy. So EFT comes in here.
I'm going to interject something in here because this is, I think, a very important point in what you're talking about. Our thoughts generate chemical responses in our body. If we're all in our head, we're not aware of the chemical responses. Emotions are the way we label the chemical responses that happen in our body. Actual chemicals are created, redistributed, have impact on different organs. And if we're not paying attention to it, what's being triggered, if we're not connected body and head, and you'd be amazed how many people are wandering around in the world, just like they're all in their head, and they go to the doctor and the doctor gives them some chemicals. But what they don't realize is those chemicals are designed to respond to the chemical responses that are happening in your body on autopilot because you haven't processed all these things, which is what you're talking about. Correct?
Correct. So the process is correct. So when you have a negative thought, it will activate some neurotransmitters, neuropeptides, and then the hormones. In that process, it actually activates also an image in your brain. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're angry, and then you have anger. Oh, I am so angry because Jill didn't speak to me, or whatever it is.
Right.
Now, and then the emotion comes in. So you got the neurotransmitter, the neuropeptide gets activated. Now the hormones got activated. It goes down to your adrenals because the hormones activate the adrenals. Now you have adrenaline, and you have that picture. It keeps on replaying. So your thoughts, emotions, and deeds create the outer world and reality. So now you're affecting the body because you've activated the sympathetic nervous system. So now you're in the fight, flight, or freeze mode. The blood goes to the extremities. There's no repair going on. And this keeps on replaying in your head. And now you're on the hamster wheel. So now you go to the doctor. They only deal with the symptoms in the body, and they have more than direct effects, these medications. So now you add to the problem, but you never address the issue. Mm-hmm. Perfect case is cancer. It's my own personal opinion, so I don't want people to think I'm a doctor. So you go and you remove the tissue and the organ where the cancer is. And before you know it, it's moved to another organ. My little brain says it went to another organ because that organ is not there. So it's going to go to the closest organ that might be similar. And we call it metastasis. It's not metastasis, that same problem. It's like having a problem with your drain at your bathroom, and you don't fix it. You fix it at one level, but there's another one on top, so it's going to go to the other pipe. That's basically the same thing. There's a blockage in one area, so this pipe gets blocked. Okay, so you fix this one, but you didn't go all the way to the top where the blockage is being created. So it's going to find if there's another pipe, another place to get blocked. And I think once people understand that, and where is the disease, according to Dr. Joe, well, not only Dr. Joe, because there's many people before, it's in the field. So the field has the pattern for the disease. It's not in the body. It's a matter of time before it goes into the body. So we have to clear the pattern in the field. And that's where EFT is superb, and it actually works very fast compared to other modalities. I'm not saying it's the only one, and I'm not saying it's the best. I'm saying it's one of the most excellent ones, and it works super fast. And so you remove it.
It's so easy.
It is so easy.
It's hard to wrap your mind around the idea that all I have to do are these little things. It's tapping. You tap on certain body points for those of you who don't know what it is. But, and it doesn't even matter if in your head you're saying this doesn't work.
Yes.
Because it does work. It works on a cellular level and it bypasses your thinking altogether.
Yeah, so EFT is a combination of cognitive therapy. It's an energy modality, a combination between cognitive therapy, and we are tapping on the body's meridians. So it's acupuncture without needles. And so we're tapping on the body's meridians where it's believed there's some disruption in the energy flow. And by tapping and allowing yourself to feel and acknowledge what you're saying, you're dealing both with your minds, because we have three bodies. Well, we have six bodies, but for our case, we have three, right? The mental, the physical, and the emotional. So it addresses those bodies, and the energy can now flow and move. Because what is emotion? Energy in motion, and it carries information. So that information, when you were young, got stuck because you didn't know how to process it, and you created the belief. And now, because you're an adult, you can feel it, and it doesn't need to replay like those old records we had, and the needle got stuck. And you'd be playing the song, but it got stuck on that one place and it wouldn't get past it. That's exactly what happens in the body when we store traumatic memories or emotions get blocked. And so we release that.
And so how do you work with people in terms of helping them release stuff? And
Well, first I meet them where they're at. We come up with a plan, obviously, and so I believe there has to be some structure. What is their goal that they want to reach, and we kind of work backwards how long they think it's going to take, and then we address what is it that they're feeling. We release that, but I go a little further than that. After we deal with traumatic memories, I use a lot of hacking reality. Another modality is matrix reimprinting. I just got trained from someone else, so it has a different name. So we go back in time and reimprint the memories. And why do we do that? Because there's many yous. So you're multidimensional, and they're all realities, past, present, and future, are happening at the now time, and they all affect each other. So if there's an aspect of you, it's called an echo, an energetic holographic, can't remember what it's that, holographic imprint stuck in the past, it's going to affect you in this lifetime. And we know that from people who have done past life regression, but we can deal with it in EFT. So we go and clear first the emotion, and then we ask that version of you, how would it have liked to play out? And once we reimprint that, what happens is that timeline gets inactivated, and that version of you either can get integrated in you, or they can move to another better timeline. And it actually raises your own frequency, and eventually that story may even get erased. Like, I had a really hard upbringing, but most of it seems to have gone. It seems to somehow be fading away. So I do a lot of hacking reality. And then what I often do with people is I connect them to their future self, and they connect through to after we've done some tapping through their future self, get the beliefs and bring the future self to the now time and give the client advice. I try to avoid to give the client my own advice because it's better if they hear it from the version of their own successful self that they have. And so we integrate that. And now you're connecting all the yous. Some people call it soul retrieval. I just called it your future version of you. I don't give names to it, but that's basically, so you're trying to collect enough energy from the positive yous that are out there that you're not experiencing, and releasing any blockages from negative beliefs that you have for yourself, so you can create the reality you want.
Because we only exist in the now. So
That's correct.
You've got events that you've created stories around, and images that you're
Correct.
storing in your mind, but also in your body, because the images have a physical impact on you. And then you've got the future, which a lot of us call manifesting, but it's really just creating the now that you want by borrowing from a different timeline.
Correct. And the future that you want already exists now. So if you get enough energy of it, you can occupy it. And why are we connected? Because it's very different if we say we're connected. In 2022, the non-local, they got the Nobel Prize for non-locality. So we know that entangled particles, so particles that were created together and were split, what happens to one instantaneously happens to another. So imagine all your parallel U's are entangled. So that's why the parallel lives impact us. Now you have a future self who's entangled with you. If you start picking up that energy from there, you can bring it in the now and occupy that ideal timeline that you want, because it's usually our negative timelines that are impacting us, plus our current timeline that we had a lot of limiting beliefs, because that's what we learned from the outer world, and we all did.
There's nobody that survives childhood without trauma. It just doesn't happen.
Yes.
But we have a choice. And, as we get more into understanding the quantum field, we have it becomes possible to change the reality, not just for ourselves, but for the whole world. The more we can get people to buy into the idea that you don't have to live with all of this baggage. You can dump it on another timeline and shift. Travel lighter. Let it go. That's the ultimate in time travel.
Yes.
So you want to talk a little bit about what hacking reality is and rewriting traumatic experiences? How I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but
okay, so we said that the traumatic memories are stored in the hippocampus, and they're usually stored high definition, and they weren't time processed correctly. So they don't have a timestamp. That's why they're always replaying in the background. And the regular memories are stored as low definition because they're not important. But this one is always going on, just playing like that needle in the background on the record player. So once we release the emotion and the belief, it's not the emotion that we want to release. We want to release the belief, because that experience made you acquire a belief system about yourself, and it's emotions that holds the beliefs. Once it's all neutralized, and that's very important, because a lot of people try to do matrix, they call it some other similar modality, to call it matrix or hacking reality, and not release the emotion. You cannot rewrite over if you don't format your hard disk, is a better way of talking. So that hard disk needs to be reformatted. which means drain the emotional charge and belief system. So once that's done, we ask the younger self, or that version of you, to how it wants it rewrite, and we also put in a new belief, an empowering belief. And we use the technique by re-imprinting it and using some imagination, I should say, and we send it out and we blast it to all versions of you, and you bring it also back inside the body. But there's a lot of emotion that takes place, and usually the person has to replay it for a few days. Some of them I've replayed for over 20 days. And then eventually what happens is the brain prunes this old connection that was there. The two neurons get pruned, and now you have a new neuron format with this new belief and a more empowering picture of yourself. And that actually moves you now to a parallel, better timeline for yourself. So that's what hacking reality is all about. Basically, you rewriting the memories you want for your life. But I'm going to stress again, because we had a mentoring session, you can't just do it if you don't address and deal with the earlier experience to release all the charge that's in it.
And you do the charge releasing through EFT.
That's correct.
Okay.
Always through EFT. We want to use EFT because, as you said, it's stored in the body. It was Candace Perth that proved that the body is the subconscious mind. So a copy is stored in the mind, a copy is stored in the body, and that's why Chinese medicine tells us that, let's say, the liver holds anger, the kidneys hold fear, and we have also German new medicine and meta consciousness that actually tells you what disease each organs holds once you go through stuff. So, for example, someone who has pneumonia is not necessarily a bacterial infection. It's feeling powerless from the world, feeling attacked from the world, and you're not able to breathe and survive in the reality. You know, someone who may have Hashimoto's, they weren't able to speak up when they were a child, they were crushed, or they were never heard. So each organ, besides an emotion, often holds a story. And with meta consciousness, we use what meta consciousness tells us. We work with a client to map their memories, and we go and clear the particular memories because we don't have all the same experiences. So there's like a general grouping, you know, what this will hold, or what your digestion is going to hold. You know, if you have digestive issues, well, there's something in the reality you can't digest or don't want to digest. Hearing issues is you didn't want to hear it, or what you heard was too painful. You couldn't process what you heard.
It's so fascinating how our bodies, which exist and don't, to begin with, when you look at the 3D version of what we've got going on, and then meld it with the frequency world, which is reality. The 3D world is just how we perceive it. It's like watching television. Television does not exist. It's like what we're doing here, where we're talking to each other. We're both in different places. We don't actually exist in this space, and yet here we are talking.
Yeah.
That's just frequency. It's not 3D reality. All of our experience is this. It's just so fascinating to me.
I know. I mean, I forget. I do know the Course in Miracles says that the bodies are not real. So the body is a projection of the mind. And and you're projecting it from outside of here, having the experience. That the problem, what has happened to us, is we've identified with the body, the avatar, and which is why we got lost. Instead of knowing that was the projection, that was the car. So this was the vehicle to navigate this reality, though we have now started believing we are the car and we're not the driver of the car. And it's really hard, including for people who know that, to remember on a regular basis that's the situation.
And a car can't do all of the things that the operator can do. And it just, once you can wrap your head around even just the idea of that, it opens up the possibilities for you exponentially.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to work with you, Sophia? I mean,
Okay. So they can come to my website, tapintoyourbestself.com. I have a few options. They can schedule a complimentary session that is 20 minutes that usually runs over. They can get information, or they can experience what tapping is like, or we can find what is best suited for them. I offer a free masterclass teaching Change Your Mind, Create New Results, which is a course designed from Dr. Joe Dispenza that the trainers, which I'm one of them, can teach. And this was taught to Coca-Cola and major corporations and individuals like CEOs that the person can use. It's a very interactive course. So it's roughly 17 hours, and there's a lot of writing down and back and forth to identifying what's holding you in your reality. And people often do a combination. They do some tapping and take the course and then continue the tapping, and eventually over a period of time are ready to move on. Because when you tackle both your mind and your emotions, now you can get to where you are. And there's nothing that you can't let go or change in your reality, because as we said, the reality is a projection of your mind. So everything can be changed. And I think we've seen that through many modalities now. And the only difference, I pick EFT because this is the one that has worked for me. And the clinical research has indicated it down regulates genes and it works faster than other modalities. And there's no side effects to it. And it's a modality they can do on their own afterwards.
I told you before we got started that when I first started, that I have stories about EFT. And when I first started playing, and it was really just playing with EFT because I'd heard about it, but that can't possibly work. So I found Margaret Lynch, and this was maybe 10 years ago. It might even have been longer. It was right when she was first getting started. And she did a video called tapping for $50,000 or something like that. And I was so broke at the time. It was just like it was pretty sad. But I decided, okay, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. Zero belief. And about 2 weeks later, I went to my mailbox and there was a check for $3,500 in there. Totally unexpected. I'd been we'd won a lawsuit that I didn't even know I was part of. It just showed up.
That is the magic of EFT. And it does work when you don't have beliefs. I mean, I didn't go in believing. At this point I was completely discouraged, and I was so exhausted from everything else. And it does work because you're physically using the body to release the energy, where the other modalities, it's either someone else doing it for you or it's just using the mind. And the key here is no one can do it for us. I mean, I wish I could say someone else can do it for you, but I can't. We have to do it for ourselves.
And that's the crux, I think, of the reason why the medical community struggles so much providing solutions to people, because people want to have a different experience, but they're not willing to make any changes. And so if you don't change what you're doing, you're not going to have a different experience in your life. And you're gonna have dis-ease in your body if you don't process all of this stuff. And I don't know where I sit with the virus versus environment arguments.
Germ versus terrain. So my
Yeah.
degree is in epidemiology.
Mhm.
It's my personal opinion, but the terrain theory is the accurate one.
I lean that way too. It's like,
And all diseases are lowering of frequency, and we have scientific evidence from certain people from the 40s and the 50s when I mentioned the reference that the disease is in the field. So it is your own projection. So the illness happens from the inside out, just like putting a cheese in the refrigerator. You bought a nice piece of cheese, but you left it there. It's nice protected in the refrigerator. And 2 months later, from the inside, has molded
yep.
because it's cut off its life source. Well, the same thing with the body. If it's cut off its energy source, or from source,
Mhm.
it will start deteriorating from the inside, and that's what happens. And when the cells deteriorate from the inside, it's called pleomorphism. It changed form, and now they turn into viruses and whatever it is. So it's an inside job.
I'll ask you this other question later. So this has been an amazing conversation. I've really enjoyed hearing how to shift reality, and that it's really a simple process, and that having an expert come along and help you formulate a plan and walk you down the path to making it happen for you. It's kind of like your guide for reality shifting, if you will. I'm giving you a new label.
Yes, thank you.
So what is the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from our conversation, Sophia?
I'm just going to recap where I left off. It's never too late. I had a lady with Tourette's that the Tourette's left. And I've had a woman that I'm working with. She goes in and out of a new timeline, a completely different timeline. The people around her are different, or at least some of the people act differently. So it's never too late. No matter what it is, it's not too hard for you to shift. And what I want the people to take is you're not changing the you here. So if there's an illness, you're not healing this body. You're changing your beliefs and emotions and your actions, tuning yourself to another channel, and you're moving to a parallel you. Because often they feel if they have to change this, it's impossible. You're just going and you're going to inhabit another version of you, which is better, healthier, or whatever it is that you're looking for, more abundant, more joyful, and more love for life.
I love that. I just love the whole picture. My mind is going, yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for the You World Order Showcase podcast. Remember, if you would like to be featured on this podcast as a life, health, or transformational coach, please visit www.jointheyouworldorder.com. We look forward to talking to you next time as we present another life, health, or transformational coach being the change they seek in the world.